Hi guys, welcome back. Once again, my name is Shamika. If you are new here, welcome. And if you are returning, I'm glad to see that you came back to stop by to see what I'm up to. So, in the first video that I recorded yesterday, I showed you guys how I cut my tulle for my tutus and how I sew the casing on my tutus or my waistband, whatever term you would prefer to use. This evening, what I'm going to show you is how I sew my ribbon on my tutus. And pretty much in any video that you watch in regards to tutus, you're pretty much going to see the same thing. Most of us, we place our ribbon down on the sewing machine first, and then from there we'll lay our tulle and sew. This tutu that I'm sewing is going to have two different colors of ribbon on it. The ribbon that I'm using is satin ribbon, double face satin ribbon for this tutu. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get everything set up, and we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll show you guys how I sew my ribbon. I don't want the video to be super long and extra boring, so I'll kind of show you how I get started and show you sewing, the technique that I use to sew my tutus, and then from there I will, cut the video and then come back and show you when I'm doing the second step of sewing the ribbon on the tutu, and then we'll continue for there. As always, if you have any questions or comments, definitely please feel free to leave those in the comments section below, and I'll get back to you. So I'll see you guys in a few. Okay, so I am back, and what I did was I went ahead and threaded my machine with the ribbon that I'm going to use. I like to change my ribbon when I sew tutus. Some people don't. They just use all white, but I like to change mine. So now what we're going to do in order to sew the ribbon on, and I'm going to try to get you guys in as close as I can. Again, this is double face satin ribbon, and I've already heat sealed my ends, so you won't see me do that part on camera, because when I get done sewing, I'll go ahead and heat seal my ends so that way my ribbon won't fray while it's up. Sorry, my tool is like tangled. So now to sew my ribbon on my tool, I lay my ribbon down, and I have my ribbon on the right hand side of my presser foot. So I line that up with the right hand side of my presser foot. And then I take my tool. No, I said that backwards, sorry. I line my ribbon with the left hand side of my presser foot, and I line my tool up with the right hand side of my presser foot. Now, I've been moving around in here a lot to try to get this set up for you guys, so just give me a second because I have to find the end of my tool now, because I don't know where it went. Okay, so like I was stating before, I always try to keep the excess of my tool on the outside, because I find it easier to control that way. And what I'm trying to do here is just kind of line these pieces up. And again, I like to straddle my tool between my legs because I find it easier for me to control it. So I don't know if you can see. I have my ribbon, like I was saying, lined up to the left-hand side of my presser foot. So if you're facing your sewing machine, that's your left. And then I will have my tool, the end of my tool, lined up with the right side of my presser foot. I don't have an overhead, I don't know what you call this, camera stand. I'm recording with my phone. I don't even have a camera yet. So I'm just lining up my tool and putting my presser foot down. I'm using the same stitch length and everything, and you want to kind of pull on it a little bit so that it don't bunch up on you. And you're going to do just like you would when you sew anything else. You're going to go forward a few stitches, and then you're going to back stitch, and you're just going to keep on going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that tool in line with my presser foot, and I'm going to keep my ribbon in line with the presser foot, like I was saying earlier. You know, we have the ribbon lined up with the left side of the presser foot and the tool lined up with the right side. This will shift on you. So take your time and go as slow as you need to go. And you may have to kind of stop and readjust to kind of get it how you want it. In addition to, if you haven't already cut your ribbon, which I leave my ribbon on the roll, and then I just sew until I get to the end. So have your ribbon in a place to where you can just sew, and then it automatically kind of just unroll itself as you go. Sometimes what I will do is I'll pull a little bit out before I get started, and then I kind of just, you know, let it kind of self-adjust from there. And so to kind of keep this in line with my presser foot, what I'm doing is I'm taking my left hand and I'm pulling my tool to the left, and I'm almost kind of like pulling my ribbon to the right. But not like a hard pull, just a small tug to kind of keep things lined up. Now, if you notice that after you folded, not folded, but after you sewed your casing, that your tool is off, like it's not perfectly lined up, then what you can do is kind of just take your rotary blade and try to even up those pieces. It's normally not that much that you're cutting off, so it's not really going to make a big difference in the length for the tutu. That's what I've noticed. I haven't gotten any complaints about my tutus being too short. So that's just something that you can do if you're having issues with your tool not being completely straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to sew until I get to the very end. Once I get to the end, I'll double stitch. I'll back stitch to secure my stitch from my tool and my ribbon. And then we'll come back, and then I will show you how I add the second color on. So I'll see you guys back here in a few. Okay, so we are back. I am done sewing the first color of ribbon on my tool. As you see here, we have the white sewn on the bottom. And so a lot of people follow the same method, and they put the ribbon face down. We're going to line it up with the left side of the ribbon. And then they line up their tool and the first piece of ribbon. I'm trying to get enough stretch with this ribbon so it's not, nothing's not pulling as I'm sewing. So they sew kind of like they did the first time. So what you're going to see here is now that my pink ribbon is lined up with the left side of my presser foot, and the top of my white ribbon is lined up with the bottom. And so this is what we're going to get. It'll be that much overlap. There has been times I've done my tutus differently. And again, you kind of just got to look and see what works for you. There's been times to where I don't even do my ribbon on the bottom. Like, I just flip it over and then just sew on the top. So I can just see, you know, how much space I actually want to have when it comes to, you know, my tutu. Like, I may want to have more white showing. Well, if you're sewing it from the back, that's going to be hard to see. You know what I mean? In a way, versus if you're sewing it from the top. So I have done both. I did it from the top when I first started because I just had a hard time seeing. And I knew in my head what I wanted it to look like. You know what I mean? But I couldn't see what I wanted it to look like without actually seeing it, if that makes sense. So I did it that way so I could actually see what was going on. Because you will lose some coverage. You know what I mean? And if you want it to almost kind of be even, then you might want to turn it the other way so you can kind of see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like I just stated. I have my pink ribbon lined up with the left side of my tool. And I have I said that backwards. So I have my pink ribbon lined up with the left side of my presser foot. And I have my white ribbon. It's practically lined up with the right side of my presser foot. But I feel like it's more coverage than what I would normally do. Because normally if I'm sewing it from the top, it's like this. It's not that much coverage. But we'll see if I like it. And that's the other thing too. Don't be afraid to try things and start over. You're going to see different people do different things with different techniques. Some of that may be for you. Some of it may not be for you. And if that's the case, then just, you know, if you have more tools, just start over. It doesn't hurt to start over. A lot of times as crafters, we do stuff and the customer don't know if it's right or wrong. You know, they just know that they have a, you know, they have a product. And that's that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this. I'll be sewing it the same way I did the first time. I'm just going to sew the pink all the way down, and then I'll come back and show you guys what it looks like. Okay, guys, I forgot. So, one of my friends called me, and I forgot that I was making a video. So, once you sew your second color on, this is what it looks like for me. You know, it may be different for you. It just really depends on how much you overlay your second ribbon. You're then going to cut your elastic for your waistband or your casing that you sewed. Like I stated before, I'm doing a 3T, 4T tutu. So I cut my elastic at 19 inches. And then I have these tools that I purchased. Let's see if I can show you. To use to weave my elastic through. Like, this is like a drawstring threader, and I got a couple other tools that I purchased, but I don't use those. I just old school it. I use the safety pin method, and I'm like almost halfway through it, and then I remembered that I was recording a video. So this is what it's looking like thus far. That's the back. So, but this is what it's looking like thus far. And what I've been doing, as you can see, is I have a safety pin on the end to keep it from me losing the end. And then this safety pin right here is what I'm using to weave through to pull my elastic all the way through. So I'm using a safety pin, and there's I'm using elastic, and there's a safety pin on each side of the elastic. And so as you see, I'm just weeding through and pushing my tool down until I get to the end of the waistband, or the end of the tool. Now once I get to the end of the tool, some people hand sew their elastic. I don't. When I first started sewing tutus though, I did notice that I would try to use a zigzag stitch and it would bunch up. But I end up learning that when you do the zigzag stitch for your tutus, you need to increase your tension. So I increase my tension as far as it can go, which on this machine I believe is a 9. And then from there, what I do is zigzag like 2 rows for my waistband. And then I fluff out my tool to make sure it's even amongst the elastic. So I'm going to go ahead and finish weeding this through and sewing my elastic closed. And then I'll come back and show you guys the finished product. So here's pictures of the elastic after I sewn it. You'll see that there was no bunching, so make sure you increase your tension. So this is the finished product. I have already weeded my elastic through. I've shown you the pictures of what my elastic waistband looked like once I zigzag stitched my waistband. And this is the actual finished product of the tutu. Now, once you get done with that piece, you want to make sure that you kind of look underneath your tutu and fluff a little bit to make sure that you don't have like any loose threads or anything like that from when you sewed your ribbon on or your casing. And then just fluff it out to your desire. Add your ribbon if you plan on adding a bow of any sort. And you are done. And that is how I do my tutus in a nutshell. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.